Hi, welcome to Smart Parenting for College. Don't let your child leave for college without these four legal documents. Thank you so much for joining us today. Here's the agenda of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why. Why do you need legal documents for an 18-year-old? And then we're going to go over some of the types of legal documents you will need. HIPAA and the Healthcare Power of Attorney, which provide access to health information. FERPA, which provides access to educational records, and the financial power of attorney, which provides financial access for financial preparedness. My name is Robin Goldenberg, and I practice estate and elder law in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and Florida. I am the COO and the estate team leader at Pasternak Appel. Pasternak Appel, we are a firm that deals with estate planning, estate administration, or probate, and estate litigation. We also have a department that does real estate, and we have a litigation and business department as well. So what are the documents and why do you need them? So let's talk sort of first about why do you need them. So imagine a situation where your child's away from school and you get a call from their friend that they were together in a car and there was a car accident, and your child was rushed to the hospital and they're unconscious, and you try and call the hospital and the hospital will not speak to you because you have neither HIPAA release forms or healthcare powers of attorney, and so they can't talk to you about your child because your child's 18. When we were putting forth this seminar, one of the things that came out was a story of a woman who said her daughter was in the hospital with double pneumonia, and because she had a healthcare power of attorney, she was able to help direct the healthcare that her child receives. She was at a local community hospital in college, and she was able to make sure that her child got transferred to a university medical center. And the reason she could do this is because she had a healthcare power of attorney, which allowed her to direct the healthcare of her child. So a lot of us know HIPAA already because we see these all the time. You go to the doctor's office, they ask you to sign. Who do you want access to your information, your financial information? Can we leave a message on your home phone or your cell phone? So you want to make sure that you have HIPAA forms done for your child, and they are pretty generic forms because they're federal forms, and they're left blank where they could get filled in with the provider and the date. The next document that you need is the healthcare power of attorney. And what that does is it allows you to direct the healthcare decisions of your child. So usually this comes into place where a child or another person is incapacitated and they're not able to make decisions for themselves. And so you would be able to come and make the decisions for them based on their wishes. So incorporated with this is also a living will, and the living will dictate if they are in a terminal stage or an irreversible condition that they do not want life-saving measures. And so it deals with what happens if they're pregnant, or do they want their organs donated? And so these are things that the healthcare power of attorney would incorporate through the living will. So it's important to know the wishes of your child, and it's important to make sure you're following what they want as their healthcare agent. The next document that you need is the FERPA release, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so what this does is it protects documents at universities so that you do not, as a parent, have access to your child's records. And so a lot of parents get very upset by this because they say, well, I spent $20, $30, $40, $50, $90,000 on college a year, and I'm not able to get access to my child's records. And the answer to that is you're not. And so there are a few exceptions. If your child is brought up on a violation for drug or alcohol, they may allow you to have access to the record. If your child has a medical emergency, they may allow you to have access to the record. Or if your child is under 23, not married, and lives with the parent for more than a half of a taxable year, and they are declared as dependent, you may have access. So those three exceptions, though, are basically held by the university. So the universities can decide whether to honor those exceptions or not, and most universities will defer on the side of the student and not allow access. So it's important that even though you may pay taxes and claim your child as a dependent, if your child's at school, you need to have one of these releases executed. Now, some schools have their own specific releases. We do a general release that should be good at all schools that will allow a parent to have access to things like grades, financial statements, any disciplinary actions, and anything that may be involved with your child at school that you feel like you need to know about, and your child agrees. So the child obviously has to agree to this as well. The next document is the financial power of attorney. So this allows you to act as access basically your financial records of your child. Again, this is usually effective immediately, but mostly used if somebody is incapacitated. We'll give you access to their tax returns, to pay their bills, and you can think of a situation where this sort of would come in handy, right? So imagine your child is studying abroad and you need to file a tax return for them. This would allow you to sign on their behalf since you have their power of attorney. So this again gives access to financial records of your child. This also becomes important if your child gets maybe a large inheritance and is spending that without much care, or if they have a drug or alcohol problem and they're eating through money. So those are some things to think about. This is a bonus form. So this form is the Psychiatric Advance Directive Crisis Plan. It is a specific form in New Jersey. Other states have their own form. It is what we call a statutory form. The state dictates what is on that form. Really, you only need to use this if your child has a history of inpatient or even outpatient psychiatric admissions or drug or alcohol problems. It is a very extensive form with a lot of questions that directs what type of medicines they want, how they want care and treatment. And so if your child does have a history of mental health illnesses, this may be a form you want to look at. In our healthcare power of attorney, we do incorporate language that says if two doctors are recommending that your child be put into a voluntary inpatient facility because of a drug or alcohol or mental health crisis, that you're allowed to exercise that through the healthcare power of attorney. So the four forms again that you need are the HIPAA release, the healthcare power of attorney, the FERPA release, and the financial power of attorney. So some of the questions that we get are, what happens if your child goes to college out of state? Well, each state, as long as it was legitimately and legally executed in the state where your child is from, the other states will most likely accept it. Almost all states accept well-executed documents from another state. So if you're executing these documents in New Jersey and then you go to Florida or you go to New York or you go to Pennsylvania, they will be honored as long as they're properly executed, which means notarized and signed and witnessed when appropriate. And then another question that we commonly get are, what happens if I don't have these documents? Well, if your child becomes incapacitated and unable to make decisions for themselves, and you don't have these documents, then you're forced to go through a guardianship to gain access to them for their person as well as for their finances. And guardianship can be complicated. It can pit family members against each other. It requires you to go to court. It is expensive. It can be time consuming, and it requires court involvement and oversight. So now you have a judge potentially involved in helping ensure that decisions are being made appropriately for your child. So again, the four documents that you'll need for your child when they turn 18 and they go out of state to college or in-state to college, or even if they don't go to college, is the HIPAA release, healthcare power of attorney, the FERPA release for school records, and the financial power of attorney. We do these documents for you, so if you are interested in following up with us to get the documents, please feel free to reach out to us at Pasternak Appel. Our phone number is 856-642-6445, and you can email us at info@pasternakappel.com. Thank you very much.